Hello, I'm Abir, a front-end software engineer at Certa and a computer science graduate from 2022 batch. I'm also one of the mentees at AsyncAPI Mentorship Program 2022. Today, I'm really excited to present my journey from a contributor to an incoming TSC member at AsyncAPI. So let's get this started. So it was back in early 2020 when Souvik and me were exploring open source and trying to learn things like which are not usually taught in any traditional educational institutions. So we were exploring about how to build WebSockets because that time we were building a chat application and we were quite curious about the technology behind WebSockets and how it works, how the sending events and how the receiving events, how it completely works. So that with the global search on GitHub, trying to search about different organizations. Remember, we searched on GitHub, not on Google. So we searched on GitHub, and that's how we landed on Async API, and that's how like we started exploring it out. So initially, it was the logo that catch me out. Okay, this is something interesting, looks interesting, and let's explore this out. So as we got to know more about the open source culture, we were really impressed by it. Okay, this is where I want to be part of. So there's the decision was taken that let's be part of Async API, and we'll never miss any GitHub discussion or anything around Async API that's happening in the organization. So with time passed, we explored different things. It took us time to know the things. For me, it was around like 6 months to know about what is a specification file, how it works, how bundler works, so many things. It's not just putting up the time. It's just about learning things, then researching. A lot of things was going on side by side. So with this, we got finally a project known as Async API CLI. This Souvik started this project. He's the owner and the maintainer of this project. So when the MVP was ready to use, Souvik and other contributors were also helping him to make this project up and running. So when the MVP was ready, we thought about building out the like missing features for CLI, and I took the responsibility for building out some missing features for CLI. For example, built a spec watcher. So a spec watcher is a flag which actually runs on any commands, existing commands, or any upcoming future commands in the async API CLI. So it's a flag. The core responsibility was to enhance the developer experience of the CLI, where one can check about real-time validations or whatever the command that has been run. Suppose you have a spec file and you change it to something, and you have to rerun the command again to know the what are the changes that has been done and what is the new change working or not. So this real-time flag or watching flag helped me to help to run the validations, or it can be any such command in a real-time way that okay, if you have changed anything, it will notice the change. Okay, this has been changed. Let's run the validation again. This can be optimized in more fashion way. Like we can have more kind of optimizations in this. That's how the future task, but that's how the whole spec watcher flag started. And during that time I was completely new to the things about CLI, how things work, and I took a chance there, a risk to know the things because this was going to be used by tons of users of Async API. So that was the main reason that I was a bit nervous also. But yes, I want to thank Matthew Abansett for his timely reviews and on the Spec Watcher PR. He has been a great mentor for me, has been guiding me on how to design code and how to write a beautiful code, like which can run on millions of users. So that's how like the things you need a great mentor to be a great engineer. So that's what I believe. So for me, Matthew Abansett, great mentor for me, and I'm really happy to have him. So time passed quickly, and I was discussing with Matcha about his idea on error interfaces. So how this idea of error interfaces arrived. So we were actually thinking about we had different number of async API tools. So what we wanted to do was have a common error interface for all of them, because right now what we are having is, suppose we have a parser API, and parser API is having its own error interface, like to manage all the errors in the parser API. Whereas server API is also having its own interface for managing it. Even the CLI also has its own interface. Even the generator also has the same different interface. So we have different, like the responsibility of the code is same to manage the errors, but we are using it in four different ways. So why not have a common error interface known as async API problem? And let's try to solve this. So this was the gist of the problem that we wanted to solve. So we discussed it, and I got to know that after discussing it, it plays a really vital role in software development lifecycle. That organization needed one such tool, because as we scale and as we grow, the community grows. We have tons of developers working out. right? So there should be something that is very like centralized, like especially the error interfaces. So it's easy to debug whenever something happens and any incident occurs. So it is also helps to do the root cause analysis for any incidents in shortest time as possible. So with this basic idea of error interfaces, I took a challenge with Matche to build this out. And one such opportunity that Async API has given me about the Async API mentorship program. So, and I was waiting for the mentorship applications when it will start. And we are continuously discussing how we'll progress about it and what are the different structures in the issue itself, in the issue comments. So the voting happened for the ideas, and our idea was in. So you can see that we were happy here that our idea is in, and I was a mentee at Async API. So it was like quite hard to give it a creative name for the whole repository. So for now, we decided to give it a very simple and self-explanatory name, Async API Problem Repository. It's in my personal GitHub. It's public only. Matthew and me are building it out, and we will be discussing more about this in the get in the February month about how to integrate it with different tools, and it will be ready for different tools integration. So at Async API, what thing I have realized is it's really important to maintain the tools and improve them with time. Hence, we decided to make this error interface as a pluggable error interface, which can be used across the organization. So that's what the main idea, that building something which is impacting whole organization in a positive way. And also it will reduce the time for a developer to find RCAs or anything like that. So where the problem repository will impact, initial features like of this error interface will be incrementally added to parser repository, server repository, async API CLI, and generator. Like in the whole async API organization, even if you want to have your own project, you can use that error interface. Own project in the sense of async related to async API, and it will be done effectively by Q1 of 2023. And I also want to thank my project mentor again, Machi, for helping me out to think about the box and build software that serve the need of your surroundings. Right? So that's what I learned from this whole mentorship and my journey. And that's how my journey started and still going on. With this problem repository merging to Async API, I'll be holding one of the core responsibilities in the world of open source. That is being a TSC member at an organization. So that's something I'm really excited about, and this will be a major contribution to the world of open source and event driven architectures. So once again, thank you everyone for having the session, and thank you so much.